In this video, I'd like to talk about solving rational equations. And in all of these equations, notice that our variable is in the denominator. So that's going to occur in all of these equations. Now remember the word rational, it has the word ratio in it. So you could think of these as fractional equations. And for these problems, basically we need to get our variable out of the denominator. So let me rewrite this. We have 10 over 2q plus 8, and this will be equal to 1/10. Now, a good practice is to identify which q values cannot be a solution, since sometimes you'll solve these and you'll get a value for q that really is not a solution to this equation. Since remember that with division, that you cannot divide by 0. It's an undefined solution, essentially, that when you're dividing by 0, there is no answer to that. There's no way to define one answer to the question 10 divided by 0. So we need to figure out which q values lead to division by 0. And so for that, we can just say 2q plus 8, and we'll say this cannot be 0. And from here, we can just solve for whichever q value that is. So let's subtract 8 on each side. So 2q cannot be -8, and dividing by 2, q can't be -4. So if we find -4 is the answer, then technically this problem has no solution to it in terms of real numbers. Now, going back to the question, once you've identified which values are not in the domain of the solution here, which values it for sure cannot be, then we'll approach all of these problems with a very similar strategy. And essentially, we want to get rid of this fraction. We want to get rid of the q in the denominator. And so to do that, we could just multiply each side of the equation by this denominator. Since we're dividing by this, and to cancel that out, we can use multiplication. So let's multiply each side of this equation by this denominator, this 2q plus 8, and we can do that on both sides. Now, one thing else you can do, you can cancel out this fraction, this division by 10, by multiplying each side by 10. So in more difficult problems, you'll likely just do that in one step, but in this problem, I'll do it step by step. So multiplying each side by this 2q plus 8, these will cancel, since something divided by itself is 1. And we know that we're not dividing by 0 here, since q can't be -4. And so we get 10 here. And over here, we get 2q plus 8 in the numerator and 10 in our denominator. Since we're just multiplying fractions here, if you want to put that over 1, you certainly can. Now, like I mentioned, we also want to get rid of this fraction, just because fractions make things a little bit difficult. So let's get rid of it and make our equation a little bit easier. So if we multiply each side by 10, these will cancel out here. We get 100 is 2q plus 8. And then now we just need to solve a linear equation. We could subtract 8 on each side so that we get 92 is 2q. And then divide everything by 2 to cancel the 2's out here. And what we get is that q is 2 goes into 9 4 times. There's 1 as the remainder. 2 goes into 12 6 times. So q in this case is 46. And at this point, to be completely sure about this, you'll need to put 46 back into the equation. So for this one, I'll actually check it. But in the later ones, pause the video and try and check it yourself, just to verify that whatever answer you get is correct. And if you do plug it in and you do get a correct value, then you can feel very confident that this solution is actually correct. So we have 10 over 2 times 46. We'll add 8 to that, and this should be 1/10. But on the left-hand side, this just becomes 10 over 92 plus 8, which is 100. But 10 over 100 does equal 1/10, or 1/10. So when we checked it, not x, but when q is 46, it did work. So this is definitely the solution to this equation.